Cubs versus
Mr.
White Sox
Grobstein,
fans?
you're a damn liar. Goodbye.
Well, Les, you should probably, kick his ass.
Welcome in to Score Overnight. I'm Mark Grote, and I am honored to have the opportunity to preside over Les's show tonight, and I mean that. This is the best possible thing I could be doing with my life right now at 12:02. It is now officially Tuesday. I cannot imagine a place that I would rather be. So, if you don't know, we lost Les Grobstein on Sunday afternoon. Les died on Sunday afternoon. We do not yet know the cause of death for the grobber. I'm just as curious as I'm sure you guys are. A lot of times we find out, sometimes we don't. I am curious as to what happened and how it all went down because it was sudden. I did speak to Les's son, Scott Grobstein, today, and he said that he would keep me up to date and appraised of everything, but he is clearly appreciative of everything that has gone on here at the Score. He has enjoyed it. We are lucky to be able to say that it has helped members of the Grobstein family listening to the Score today, which does my heart well. And that's what we're trying to do here for Les and for the callers as well. I spoke to Kathy today as well. Kathy is Les Grobstein's longtime girlfriend. We're talking 22 years that Les and Kathy have been together. And we had a long talk, covered a lot. And, one of the first things she said was Chicago sports fans made him happy. It really it is. We always try to figure Les out, and I was doing a lot of that today, trying to figure out a good description of Les or what really drove him. Why was he like he was? Why did he never sleep? Why did he go to every venue? Why did he insist upon being omnipresent? Why did he insist on that? And I think it's possible after talking to Kathy that I have overcomplicated Les, and Les just really, really loves sports, to a level that one could even say is not healthy at times. Not healthy. And maybe sports brought him down. I don't know. Trying to do everything and trying to stay healthy, doing what Les did, and that was chasing sports. Being part of the sports, being part of the story. He loved being part of the story, which is just, I know, that's such a dirty phrase in journalism. Don't be part of the story. But Les sometimes was part of the story, and that's part of his story. And I hope we can keep telling his story tonight. And it was important for Kathy that I did express that how much the fans made him happy, and he loved doing this, and he loved talking to Score listeners. And one of the things that apparently Kathy, not devoid of sports in her life pre-Grobber, talking 22 years ago, but apparently she not a big sports fan. And she said I learned a lot of sports. And she said, boy, did I ever. I was thinking, I bet you did. I bet you learned a lot of sports, Kathy, from Les Grobstein. She said that it got to the point where she enjoyed quizzing him on dates. Like, Grobber, what happened in 1983 in Chicago? The White Sox were winning ugly that year. The Sox should have won, and then the year after, the Cubs go to the, all of that. And he always gave you a lot more than you needed. With just about everything. But that was the Grobber way, and it was important for Kathy, again, for me to relay just a couple of these things to you. And She even thought about coming on tonight, and I invite her to. Like, if she wants to, she'll pick up the phone and she'll call if she needs to, if she needs that therapy in the overnight or is feeling lonely. And she said it's really interesting. She said that it was instantly lonely when she lost him. A guy that she talks to 9 times a day, and it's funny, like that. I felt that today too. Like I felt like I do live alone, so I guess by definition I am alone, but I am not somebody who's ever had a problem with being alone, like living alone and being alone. Like I guess that's like it's a handy little trick that I have. But man, I felt the loneliness today. I did. I felt the loneliness, and it had to have been a less loneliness because, like I said, I don't typically get lonely, so it was a little bit inexplicable, but I did feel that, and I'm gonna share a lot more throughout the overnight. But guess what? Here's the rough draft of what we're gonna do for the next 5 hours. By the way, and I'll just preface this whole thing. We could talk about sports. Like if you want to call in and talk about Les, and Les is number one, okay, for this show. But if you want to talk about sports, we could talk about sports. I'm not necessarily going to be presenting a lot tonight. But we could talk about the Bears and the coaching search. We could talk about the Bulls' 4-game losing streak and Rams win over Arizona decidedly. So we can get into those things if you'd like. But the blueprint is, well, the finished copy is Les Grobstein. The rough draft of what we're going to do tonight is, it's really important for me to hear from you guys and gals that are listening at 312-644-6767, because I could use a little bit of therapy throughout the overnight. And I know that there are a lot of Les Grobstein loyalists that listen to this show that are, and we always have fun with the Les callers, but that's probably a small percentage, and a lot of you probably have never even called in the overnight, but you work the third shift, so you're listening hours and hours, and you're more in tune, probably, the people that are listening right now, than any of us are with exactly what's going on with Les. Like, we get the highlights. We all get the highlights. But you guys driving around working third shifts or at a workplace and you just have the radio on in whatever capacity, you know Les pretty well. And I'd love to hear your stories, or you're just passing along whatever you feel you need to pass along tonight to Les Grobstein, because it is, and 312-644-6767, it is, by definition, it's an island show, it's a lonely show, it's a different vibe, it's dark outside, it's cold outside, everything is just a little out of whack when you're doing third shift radio or any third shift work. I have done it in a couple of different capacities, including radio, so I do understand the vibe, and it is unlike anything else in radio. So yeah, I was talking about Les. What made him Les was that he was fiercely loyal to his teams, to a point where, again, it wasn't always healthy, because sometimes he would get nasty about it. But that was just him being protective and, being territorial. That's the way he was about his sports teams. And anything else, any other interference, he wasn't going to have it. It's sort of like he is loyal to the reason Les hates rules changes, he's also loyal to these games. He is loyal to baseball the way it has always been, and he'll protect no DH in the National League. He will protect instant replay, because who wants to get it right? 3-on-3 hockey. All of that, like, it's a non-starter, because he is loyal to all of those things, to all of those games, to all of those sports, and to the people that play them, and the franchises that house them. So I say that all to say that the Les Grobstein fans of this radio station, of this radio world, because Les has been all over Chicago, the fans are pretty territorial about Les as well. Like, he is, the fans are to Les as Les was to sports. Fans are, that you be careful what you say about Les. Hey, Les, don't let those guys talk crap about you. Some of you in are just for the fun, and I get it. You might be casual, but I think there's a lot of you that are listening right now and that are Les Grobstein fans. That yeah, he is yours. Be careful. Be careful what you say about Les Grobstein. So I want to hear from you guys out there. 312-644-6767. And along the way, I hope to hear from some other voices, maybe people from Chicago radio, present or past, maybe producers present or past, whatever. In other words, if you are listening to me right now and you know Grobber, whether you're in the business, we'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your stories, and don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Colleagues, friends, family, whomever, 312-644-6767. And Ranji's going to jump on at some point in time. He said he wants to come on. So that's what I'm talking about. And let's, without further ado, and thank you to Sean Sears. He is running the show tonight. He has done his fair share of Les Grobstein shows, so he's probably talked to you before. If you do call, Sean is the man to whom you will speak, and we will get you on the air at 312-644-6767.
Appreciate you checking in. I totally disagree with you. You totally disagree with me. That's fine. We don't want anybody to totally agree with everything we say. That would be kind of boring after a while. But I will take Jim McMahon and the 85 Bears over the current Bears top to bottom. That's not even close. And when everybody says get over the 85 Bears, how about no? I'm not going to get over the 85 Bears. I am going to, as long as I can breathe and I'm above ground, I'm going to talk about that team. Because for 1 year, that was as good a team as there were.
You're damn right, Les Grobstein. Man. I'll be carrying the 1985 Bears torch. I've taken it from Les. He left that to me. He left me the 85 Bears torch, so I will carry that proudly in his honor. He's right. He is right. One of the most dominant Chicago sports teams of all time. And if you don't want to hear about it, then guess what? KMA, you're not a Chicago sports fan. Welcome back into Score Overnight. I am Mark Grote. In for Les Grobstein. A lot of you guys have been asking, like, what becomes of the time slot? Is it going to be national programming now hereforth? Will there be a live and local? Is it going to be you, Grote? Are you going to do the midnight to 5 show? The answer is I don't know. We are truly in, or at least from my perspective, we are in day-to-day mode with what's going on with Score Overnight and how we handle things going forward. So that's as much in-depth as I can get. However, I will tell you this. As I said, we're going to have guests probably throughout the overnight, hopefully. Like I'm inviting anybody that wants to call in, friends, colleagues, whomever. 312-644-6767. And, of course, listeners, whom we'll get in just a second. But Mitch Rosen, our program director, who did hire Les here at the Score. I start to lose track over all the people that hired Grobber, but Mitch was one of them. And Mitch will be on the radio with me talking about Les starting, I think, at about 3 o'clock, about 3 a.m., and he'll be on with me, I think, if I can keep his attention span for 2 hours. I think he's on with me right up until the start of Mully and Haw. So stand by for Mitch. We'll ask him. We'll see what's going on. See what the loss of Grobber means for Score Overnight going forward, because you all have definitely been wondering about that. Let's try the phone lines again. 312-644-6767 is the number. And let me see here. Let's try. Ooh boy. All right. I'm gonna need a little help here, Sean. Who's the first person on this board? Is it Ed or is it Allison? I want to do Grobber right here. Okay. All right. Wow, a lot of people calling in. Let's go to Ed in Dallas. Ed, you are on the Score.
Hey, such an honor to be talking to you tonight. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Those of us that have listened to Les over the years, we're like a family. And there was a night when I was listening to Les, and there's a guy from the Chicago area named Calvin, and Les hadn't heard from Calvin in a while, and I happened to be listening to Les that night, and Calvin had got engaged to a gal down in Houston and moved down here to Texas, and I'm from the Chicago area, by the way. And Les was so excited to hear Calvin's voice, and you could just hear it, and it just made me feel like the family's together, and that's what those of us who listen to Les are. We are a family. And I started listening to Les. I'm a late bloomer, and I had a son 5.5 years ago, and 2 nights ago, he said he's 5.5, and he said, "Hey, Daddy, the Texas Rice game, that was a blowout. It was 58-0." And I looked at my wife, who went to Texas, and she's a total sports fan, and I said, "Babe, look up what the score was for the Texas Rice game," and it was 58-0. And I said this to my wife 2 years ago. I said, "He's just like Les Grobstein." And, he may be working there in about, Les was 19 when he started in radio. In about 14 years, he may be working Chicago radio.
Oh boy, I hope so. I don't know that I don't know if he necessarily wants to take the path of Grobber, but Ed, go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry.
No, he was just amazing, and the Larry Lujak stories and Steve Dahl. I mean, growing up there, listening to WLS as a kid, and just being reunited with Les. It was just, I was up late at night for the late night feedings, and I tuned in Les on Odyssey, and that's how we got reunited. And it's just been an amazing ride. And, to all the family members out there that are grieving with me, and even my wife that never listened to him, she goes, "I'm sad today." Yeah. And it's been a sad day at our home. And I didn't call in today because I wanted to wait till tonight to call in. And thank you for doing the show tonight. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you calling, Ed. That's definitely a good start right there. Yeah, and like I said, nobody really falls asleep to Les. You wake up to Les because you get up in the middle of the night and you flip on your device and there's Les. Who knows? You turn it on at 2:37 and it could be he might be talking about Joe Schoen, who the Bears interviewed for the assistant or for the general manager job today. He could be talking about that, but he could also simultaneously bring you right back to Bobby Mercer or Mike Vail or Manny Trio or Larry Bittner. Jerry Martin. A lot of people thought he was a bad guy. I don't care what anybody says. He could bring you there, and then he could tell you who was on deck, and that Mike Tyson was a baseball player before he was a boxer, and just take you on a wonderful trip. And if you happen to have experienced this in the overnight, sometimes you wake up and you're like, wait a minute, was Grobber talking about Barry Foote last night? Did I think I had a dream about Tim Blackwell hitting 232 and how he shouldn't have hit 7th in the lineup in the 42nd game of the season in mid-May? Did that happen? I think that's an experience that a lot of people have gone through when it comes to Grobber. Or you just remember it very vividly because he says something. Come on, this guy was just yelling about 3-on-3 hockey. I mean, he was really going off, something fierce, and then he played a Beavis and Butthead drop.
That trick never works. It usually doesn't work.
Dave Stewart. I'll talk about Dave Stewart in just a little bit. But I see that we have so many people here, and I promise I will get to everybody, including a guy that's been waiting just like everybody else. He is Sean Anderson, the Phenom, one of our great producers here at The Score. Sean actually produced the show that Rick Camp and I performed today from 9 to noon, filling in for Bernstein and Rahimi. So Sean Anderson did just a great job on the spot. That is like the essence of a score producer being ready to change an entire show on a moment's notice, and Sean did a great job. Sean, I'm so glad you called, man. What's happening, brother?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. Like I said, like as time went by today and I was alone most of the day, the sadness has increased, and I feel like I'm getting back into a better mood now. When I heard the music to start the show, got a little bit emotional because it's just less. So that's how I'm feeling. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I thought it was such a perfect match when I saw that you were hosting tonight. So I'm glad to hear you in Les's spot. I don't think anyone else should be here right now. But I felt a little called out because you were talking to me before you guys went to break awkwardly there. You're saying all these colleagues, past or present, call in, and a lot of my time spent with Les was early as a producer. I didn't really like to talk. I was really nervous. Like I'd shake before I turned on the mic.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of had that same feeling again before I called in. So you talking me down made me want to call in. So you've gotten really good at the radio thing, Grote.
Hey, I'm your old Uncle Mark. You know what I mean? I'm kind of in that mode of like I'm literally an uncle, and that's what I do. I'm not a father, never have been. So I'm like your old uncle. That's what's going on here, Sean. I want you to feel comfortable, and you're sounding great, man. And I know you did a bunch of these, right? With Grobber, you produced a bunch of overnight shows, yeah?
Yeah, about a good 6 months straight of him calling me Shane. It was all right, I think there's no one else that I would rather have get my name wrong, because he knows so many names that he's getting it right. He was trying, and it wasn't meant with any malintent. He was saying it in the sweetest way. One of the sweetest guys that can get your name wrong. But so yeah. I had time with Les, and you were talking about like him bringing up these random names, and it's like trying to produce for the guy, and he's like bringing up, oh yeah, Rick Monday hit a home run for the LA Dodgers in 1978 against the Cubs, and I'm like typing in on YouTube like Rick Monday home run, Vin Scully call.
Oh my God, I forget.
And you're just trying to produce radio for a guy that's got this photographic memory of audio from 40 years ago.
Oh my God! Now I'm thinking about, because I never really put much thought into, because there's an age gap with Les and I, but I've closed the gap quite a bit. You know what I mean? You get older and you start he's 69, I'm 50, so that's a lot of years. But really, we're kind of on the same level. When it comes to Les and you're in your 20s. He's pushing 70. I hadn't really thought about it from the perspective of you and probably many other young producers, that the names that he brings up can be foreign to me. They got to be just this mishmash of nothingness when you hear some of the names Les brings up.
Who are you talking about?
And like before I came here, like I was like the weird kid that was like digging into like the '94 sports almanacs at Brother Rice, like trying to learn all these stats and all these numbers. But like he's pulling out names that I can't even Google. Like I don't even know how to spell. Like,
they're actually not on Google. You can't find them, but they do exist, but they're not on Google.
Right. You got to get the clues. You got to get, all right, well, I know he's on the Dodgers. I know he was left-handed. I'll go through the baseball reference page on Google and try to figure it out. But, yeah, I mean, it's baseball almanac. And I don't want to freak you out here, but I think, like, you could possibly be my Les. Because, like, if you're 50 and he's, like, 69, and I'm 24 and you're 50. So, I mean, there's like, a similar gap there, Grote. I don't want to freak you out.
Well, no. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about being past the Grobber torch. And now I have to take Sean Anderson and all the young producers, and you all follow me, and I say ridiculous things, but you guys prop me up. So,
yeah, well,
I like it.
There was one thing that I kept thinking about, during the show, and it was all the people that kept mentioning, like how they were producers for Les and how they helped him. But I had a question for you because, during the pandemic, I produced you a ton. It was probably, the host I produced the most.
Yeah.
And I think when we started doing what was it, the 5 o'clock hour with Molly and Hall, where you were doing
the pregame show, Molly and Hall pregame show. Yes.
I really think that like there was kind of a switch that was flipped on you, because like there was a different Grote, because you kept like getting in this groove with Les, but then you bring it to the actual shows too.
Yeah.
Like you started turning what Mark heard into like this great segment on Parkins and Spiegel, but then you'd start bringing all this audio from like Bulls and Bears and Cubs and Sox, and it's like, I don't know. I think Les had like a really great effect on you in some way. Like those 440 shifts, even though like you were probably half awake doing them. Like I don't know. It seemed like he kind of gave you a boost.
That is such a great way to put it, because that's how it started for Les and I in terms of like, well, there's another story of how things started, but we'll take you in the Wayback Machine later on in the show. But Les and I would do that transition. We've been doing that for a long time from I would do updates on the morning show, but Les would be wrapping up, and we would just wrap for 20 minutes before Mully and Hanley or Mully and Haw cracked the mics. And Les was a tune-up for me. It was like my coffee, and because I'd walk in like just all tired, and Les is just at the end of his adrenaline, and we would talk, and oftentimes it would be magical in our own little way. So that was just a little piece of Grobber and I. Shawnee boy, I got other folks that I want to talk to. Is there anything else though that you wanted to add? And I really do appreciate you picking up the phone. It means a lot, man.
No, sounds great, and sorry, means a lot that you're doing this. Thanks for doing this, and I know, like I said, there's no one else that would be better filling the spot right now, Grote. Glad to hear you.
Great job today, Sean, and thank you for calling, and I'm sure I will see you soon, my friend. That, again, was Sean Anderson, one of the bright young producers here at Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score, one of the producers that, as he said, worked for Les for about 6 months, probably on and off as far as the midnight shift goes. So obviously everybody that has worked with Les has had some sort of attachment to him, which is always a beautiful thing. 312-644-6767, and we are going to go to Allison in the south suburbs. Hi, Allison. Allison. Okay, Allison, we're putting you back on hold. Let's go to Kareem in Plainfield. Hi, Kareem.
Grote, brother, thanks for doing this.
Yes.
I'm gonna motor mouth here to get this all in, and if you can spare me 2 minutes, I'll appreciate it. One line from Dirty Harry, Sudden Impact, applies to Les. He was the one constant in an ever-changing universe, and after losing other greats like Big Dog, Ronnie Santo, Boers retiring, it really hit me after so many decades of listening to you guys that for the last 2 or 3 years, every single time I listened to Les, at least one time in the back of my mind, it would say, savor this Kareem, because it will not last forever. I'm so glad you guys celebrated his 50 years on the radio, and there was an exchange between you and Les. And you asked, you're like, are we best friends? And I'm paraphrasing. We were like, I think we're best friends. And he was kind of like, yeah, you're all right, Grote. And it was so touching that I'll never forget it. But my first memory of Les Grobstein, I'm 47, so close to you. It was May 15th, 1982. It's a weird memory. I'm kind of like Grobber in that way. I got a crazy memory. Gordon Smiley. He died during the Indy 500 practice rounds, and I was in third grade, and I mentioned it to this kid named Aaron, and he said, "Oh, Guy Smiley?" which was like the Sesame Street dude, and I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but and then I said, no, it was this guy, Gordon Smiley, and he said, oh, what, did you hear that from Les Grobstein? And it just stuck with me for 40 years. And then
that's in the Grobber kit of jokes. Like he does
right?
the more like jokes. It's the Gordon Smiley, more like Guy Smiley. Like the Purdue, more like Perdon't. Get it? Like that was the same. More like more like the ain'ts.
What's so great about Les is that as sad as this is, somehow you always end up laughing. But I'm just trying to burn through this really quick, Grody.
All right.
That U of I, 1996, I was already a scorehead. I graduated in 1996. He was doing overnights. And it's something no one mentioned yet today, but there was the press pass scandal, and he was let go. And I was just devastated. And even all the hosts at the time, you could just tell they felt so bad, even though if it was technically justified. And it was like a year or two later that Mike North did a 24-hour radiothon, and he had Les on. And it was so cool. I'm telling you, I stayed up all night just for only one reason, so I could see Les back, because he was actually, it was like they did a little televised portion of it, and Les was there with North, and he had no bitterness whatsoever, and I think happy for that. I sent him an email around like 1999, 2000, and I said, hey, I love your show. What is that song by those chicks that say there's dust on their guitar and you suck? He responded right away that I still have the email to this day. I'll never delete it. I saved it, that it was the Murmurs. That was the coolest thing. My last thing, thank you for letting me go this long, is back in when he came back in 2009, and I would text him back and forth a lot about boxing. He'd get into boxing, and I'm a huge boxing fan. But if you want to, for me, the one memory, like if you say, what do you think of with the Grobber? He got me through a lot of hard nights, man. And but holidays. I'm lucky I have a family, good family. We spend time on the holidays, but for whatever reason, I tend to get wistful and a little bit melancholy. And I found my old text to him that he responded to a couple Thanksgiving evenings where I just texted him and I said, Les, man, thank you for being here, for doing what you do and being who you are. Because you are like a warm blanket on a cold night. And a couple times he texted me back. Once he read it on the air. And I just want to tell him to, and you too, thanks for being such a good friend. And thank you for letting me have the time, brother.
Kareem, thank you very much. That is Kareem in Plainfield. What a call. What a call. And sort of touched all the bases on that when it comes to Grobber. It is like, that is the essence of the intimacy of this medium, of radio. Moreover, the intimacy of an overnight talk show host who was all-inclusive, was Les Grobstein, and that word can be used to describe everything about Les. Anything goes. And how could hey, Kareem, I know Kareem's not still there, but Kareem, of course, like if I'm not going to let callers speak here, would I be honoring Les Grobstein? Because sometimes I turn on the radio and Les would be on, and I wasn't sure what was going on. Was that a guest Les is talking to? Because it sounds like he's interviewing Bob from the South Side right now. Wasn't sure. Maybe is that like a new beat writer? No, it's just a caller. Just been talking for 7 to 12 minutes or so. So I want to get through a lot of people though, so I don't know if I can quite go the Grobber stretch on these calls, but I will try to, and we will get to you, and there is room for you at 312-644-6767. I do have to take a break. I'm Mark Grote. It is Score Overnight. We are honoring the great Les Grobstein on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score.
On Interstate 80, we got Frank checking in. Good morning, Frank.
Hey, Les, how you doing?
You're up early today.
Yeah, no, I am. My girlfriend got me up early.
Well, that's one good way to get woken up.
Yeah, but it wasn't that way. So, anyway.
I don't mean that way. I mean, it's still, hopefully you have a nice relationship with her, and getting woken up by her is always a nice pleasant
We've
thing.
been together for 13 years, so
That's
I know
awesome.
you would.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
you and Kathy.
We've been together in January. We will have been together 22 years.
Why you put a ring on her?
That's another story for another day. She doesn't want to do that at this point. And if I propose, I've mentioned this on the air before, if I proposed to her right now, she'd break up with me on the spot.
Mine, I've been with her 13 years, but mine keeps on bugging me about why I put a ring on her.
You know what? That's nobody's business except your girlfriend's and yours.
There's so many layers to that. First of all, Les, just with the assumption that because the gentleman said that his girlfriend woke him up, that it had to have been something fun and mischievous because, well, remember, Les is a sex addict, so that's the mentality. That's his base level. Of course he goes in right on that. And then the caller asking him a question. I think I've asked Les that question before, probably on and on. You've been together a long time, Les. Are you gonna make her a real woman? You better put a ring on it. You better take care of that. It's another story for. Are you gonna drop it? But look, another story for another day with Les. That story never comes. That story just keeps getting pushed back to another day. But I did not understand the logic of Kathy breaking up with him. But I maybe she does not want to end up like Les's other wives, I guess. Anyway, coming in, too, I should point out that today is Cover Tuesday, right? Les plays cover songs as his music coming back from commercials. And that right there was ABBA, but singing in Swedish, the song SOS. So I will try to pay tribute to any of the Cover Tuesday songs that we come back with here on The Score. I'm Mark Grote. We are celebrating, honoring, mourning, doing whatever you need to do as it pertains to getting through the loss, the death of Les Grobstein now from a couple of days ago, and I'll share with you more about what has been going on over the last 2 weeks and what people closest to him are saying. I'll try to share as much insight as I can as the night goes on, but I do want to get back to your calls at 312-644-6767. And I do believe Allison is with us now. She's been waiting for just a little bit. And Allison, I'm glad that we got you on. You're on The Score. What's happening?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, Allison, you sound loud and clear and ready to talk about the Grobber.
Awesome. Well, it's funny because the delays actually remind me of when Les and I worked together at a station down the dial on a sports show, and he was my best friend, one of them for something like 30 years. And I have to say I was 5 when I first met him. Not really. But he was my mentor in sports. He was my mentor in life. And I will miss him so much. My entire family will miss him so much. And I've got to say that of all the people that I've ever argued with about sports, oh my God! We were on a show called The Weekend Sports Report, and and it was way down the dial. He would do this on Saturday morning, Mark, at 7:00. Right?
Okay.
I was producer and co-host, and we had our poor hapless boss Steve with us as well. And so he would come in. Didn't matter if we'd been covering a like a hockey game, a Hawks game, or a Bulls game, or any kind of a game the night before. He would be there bright and sharp at 6:30 every single Saturday morning. We did the show for about 3 years, and I will tell you, I have never enjoyed arguing with someone as much as I enjoyed arguing with Les on both on and off the air. We did a couple of college conferences, and the two then and we would just go back into spiel every single time. And he was the best. I have to say, though, Mark, that there was one side of Les that really nobody's talked about, and that's his charitable side. He was the first time I met him. I was a volunteer for Special Olympics, and I was putting together a fundraiser with the basketball team. We were going to air it on cable, and the cable was needed a play-by-play announcer. And so at that point, he was doing a Monday broadcast at another station down the dial with Larry Lujak, and I knew that he would be there. It was at the old Jim McMahon's restaurant. I think that was before your time. Am I right?
Where was, I don't remember the Jim McMahon's. I remember that, obviously. I remember like the Walter Payton had a club, but where was the Jim McMahon restaurant? I was around, but I don't remember that one.
It was Lincoln and Fullerton, roughly. It was like right by there was a bar called Gamekeepers, I think, and Gary Fensig owned a piece of that one. Okay. So it was sort of the Bears' corner, so to speak. And anyway, he was doing like a Monday night show, I think, there. And so I went to ask him whether or not he could do this Special Olympics thing, and he said, "Hey, if I don't have a game that night, I am so there." And so we got together to talk about it, and he showed up. He showed up and signed autographs for all the kids. He stayed after. He finally had to go to a Bulls game, but
of course.
Yes, of course he did. But he didn't have to. He didn't exit until everybody in that gymnasium had an autograph or a picture or anything like that. And since then, he's emceed so many events and charitable dinners and things like that. Some of which I recruited him for. Because my other career was in not-for-profits, and I was always fundraising. And he, to this day, he said he would always tell me, "Allison, I've got stuff set aside for you. Don't come by and pick it up." And no one, I think, knew the heart that Les had for charities and for people in need. And he would do this and MC for no money at all, and I mean, it's a side of Les that surprised the hell out of me from the time I first knew him. And I feel an incredible loss tonight because, who am I going to argue with the same way I argued with Les? Where am I going to find that many media guides? and tchotchkes and hockey sticks. I mean, he would do it all.
Oh yeah, he did provide unique services to all of us in the industry, and that's truly why he is one of a kind. And Allison, thank you so much for calling in and sharing with us and educating us a little bit on Les. It's great to hear your voice, and I like you miss him immensely. Okay. Okay. We take one more call here. Let's see. I've got my list here. Let's go to Paul in Spring Valley. Hi, Paul. You're on the score.
Hey, Mark. Great show.
Thank you, Paul.
I used to listen to Les frequently when I worked in late shift, and not so much lately. But I just want to say that I just want to offer my condolences to Les and his family. It's a terrible loss, but I thought Les was really a sports icon and a gentleman too. He was really a great guy. The thing I really liked about him, it didn't matter if you were calling from a big city or a small town. He'd always put you on the air and he'd let you voice your opinion, agree or disagree. And usually we agreed most of the time, but that's what I liked about Les. He was really objective and he was really a good guy. But the one thing I really enjoyed about Les was his that Lelia rant that he'd play once in a while. That was awesome. I used to like when he'd play that. That was great. But wasn't he the guy that taped that?
Yeah, he was one of like 2 reporters that were in the club. It sucks because it's so funny. Here's what sucks, because I want to ask him about it right now. I got to be honest with you. I don't even have the story straight because I was so dependent upon Les just having Les by my side or calling him or doing it on the air. Hey, Les, give us the whole lowdown. And then I was the only reporter there. I don't care what Mark Giangreco was there or whatever, but he was the guy, and it's one of the greatest bits of audio of all time in this business.
Yeah, I liked him too because he was really passionate about the Bears. I used to like talking Bears with him because he really was passionate, and so am I. We'd have really a lot of good talks about the Bears and the Cubs especially. But
yep.
So I know you got a lot of callers. I just want to say rest in peace, Les. So thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Right. Let me squeeze in one more. It's Rich in Oak Forest. Rich, you're on the score. Richie Rich.
Thanks for doing this tonight. Appreciate it.
Sure. You're welcome.
I'm in the same boat you're in right now. I lost a buddy, was 20 years older than me too, about 2 years ago, and I know how you're feeling right now. He was my best friend. I'm not sure if Les was your best friend, but pretty close friend.
Yeah, he was definitely. He became a friend. He became a friend. Absolutely.
And I called in the score 2 years ago and cried on the phone, and Les was like, let it out. He sounds like a real good guy, and, he talked me through that night. And, I drive for Uber sometimes, I was for a while, and I'd listen to him all night, and he would listen to me, and like you said, he'd let somebody talk for 10, 12 minutes, and that's what I liked about Les is, because one time I called during the day, and I forget who it was, but I said one thing, and then the announcer commented back, and he's like, well, thanks, Rich, and then he hung up on me right away.
It's probably that Bernstein. It's probably my guess. But,
but Les would be like, listen, and then respond, and then he'd say, well, you got anything else, Rich, before I'd hang up,
Yeah,
and it was
by
great,
the end of the call.
And I'd be like, huh?
Oh my God, Rich! Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rich. Sorry, we had a little delay issue there, Rich. I didn't mean to. Ironically, here I am cutting you off and not giving you your 10 to 12 minutes. I am sorry. I am not Les. Okay. No, I'm trying to give as much room to people as possible, but there was just a delay which became untenable. It did not feel right in my ears anymore. But we will get back to your calls. Anybody hanging in there, there are lines open too if you'd like to jump in, 312-644-6767. Going to hear from Chris Ranji here in just a couple minutes, and more of your calls as we mourn the loss of the great Les Grobstein. I'm Mark Grote. This is Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score.
You're the pride and joy of Illinois, Chicago Bears. Bear down.
I mean, Grobber can hold a tune, sorta. It came out all right. I think he lost a bet there, I think is what went down there for Les Grobstein. As we welcome you back in to Score Overnight, I am Mark Grote, and I am honored to be presiding over this night for whatever you need for Les, whether it's sharing a story, whether it's laughing or crying, whatever the case may be. I don't know what Les would have wanted us to do. Who knows? I guess what we're doing right now. I think that absolutely is the case. And a lot of you have sent text messages to me that are unnecessary. I'll read one of them and I'll respond. But Mark, thanks for putting on this program. I'm sure you are probably mentally, emotionally, and physically beat right now. Les was always there when you couldn't sleep or out on the road. Les would really appreciate your doing this in his honor. You are a great friend and teammate of Les's. And I am beat. I did the show this morning. I have not slept since then. I've had these grand delusions that I would have a nice 4 or 5 hour nap. That did not happen. But my bottom line here is I am honored to get to do this program. I would have been mad if I was not asked to preside over this tonight. It was coincidence that I was hosting today because it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Dan Bernstein and Layla Rahimi took the day off today, so Rick Camp and I were scheduled to work. It's just the way it worked out. So the gods lined things up. Who knows? I may have been a part of the show anyway today, but the bottom line is I love it and I need it, and I wouldn't have it any other way, or I'd be angry right now, and I would be calling and insisting that I am on the air and talking to Les Grobstein's callers and to his colleagues, our friends, my friends, his friends, you at 312-644-6767. And we're going to get to a lot of those calls, including my guy Chris Ranji, who is up, and I am pleased to bring him on here. What's going on, Ranj?
Good evening,
are you there?
Mark. Yeah, I'm here. Are you there?
I am here. And I'm glad that you called because I've been wanting to hear from some like people in the radio, TV world, and people that worked at the Score now, people that used to work at the Score. But it's always a tough trick in the overnight. So I am genuinely happy that you are up and calling in right now, Chris. What do you think of what's on your mind about Les Grobstein?
Well, I mean, I got a text message this morning, and it was, "Have you heard?" And I said, "Okay, I hate those texts." You know, like the vague, "Did you hear?" And I'm like, "Clear, okay, I didn't."
Come out with it. Let's go. Yeah.
And so the first thing I did, I went to Twitter, and there it was. So I was okay. I really wasn't expecting that. I wasn't around him as often as you were, but I was I used to work at night a lot, as you know, and so our paths would cross quite frequently. And actually, the first time I ever heard of Les, I was at ISU. I was still in college, and Scott, his son, was there, a little bit younger than me, and we just kind of got to talking, and somebody there, and I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody that was doing radio stuff with me at ISU that had said, "Hey, do you know about this guy Les Grobstein?" And kind of that was my first introduction to him. And then it was probably a couple of years later when I finally got to hear him, because it was before the days of any station was online and you can go find it. Right. You had to kind of physically be in Chicago, and I didn't grow up there, as everybody knows. And so my actual first exposure to the station was Pappy, was Mike North. And I remember being in the car, when he was on, and listening to this guy that sounds like he's in the Superfan sketch from SNL. Like, oh my God, they do talk like that up there. Like,
wow.
I was like, wow. So that was, but then to know that Les was like an original, in addition to that, and a guy who did it every single night. And you were telling that story earlier about introducing your ex-girlfriend to him, and I was like, oh my God, this exact same thing happened to me. You were telling that story, and I'm like, oh my God, I know this story. It's mine.
Yes.
And
So the story is really quickly for people who did not hear the story. Really quickly, this is like 10, 12 years ago. I go to the United Center with my then girlfriend Kim, and to see Lady Gaga. And Kim and I run into Grobber and Kathy, and Grobber just is in full ass Grobber mode. Lady Gaga's a little bit of a fraud, but Kathy likes her, and he's just all over the board with everything, spitting all over the places. He probably had crap coming out of his pocket. The hair is a mess. The glasses are tilted, and so then we walk away, and Kim looks up at me kind of like with this polite yet disturbed and confused look, and what comes out of her mouth next was just so. What was that all about? What was that? What was that? And it was in a very polite, well-kept way that she asked, a classy way, but then I had to try to explain what just happened, and it's impossible. Like, I've been trying all day today, Chris. It's impossible to really, we're all going to use similar words when it comes to Les Grobstein, but to truly describe him, he's the movie that you just got to watch. There's really not a lot I could tell you. Like, you just got to watch it. Yeah.
I mean, he's like Pulp Fiction. You know, if you try to explain Pulp Fiction to somebody who hadn't seen it, you know, without the drugs and the blood and all that stuff, like it's like, okay, so what's Pulp Fiction about? Like, I don't know. You just got to watch it. I can't tell you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. This was when our station was in the NBC building. And it was like midnight, I want to say, and there was a time, I mean, as you know, everybody knows, the guy would do overnights for like 5 hours. But there was a time, I don't know if you remember this, where they would have him on from like, I want to say like 10 to midnight, and then he would get a break for a couple of hours, and then have to come back and do like 3 to 5. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, we carried the old Dan Patrick show. Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah. So I don't know what I know it was a weeknight. It wasn't a weekend. And I'm with my ex at the time, and we are outside the NBC building walking down I think it was St. Clair or something.
Okay.
And we're walking, it was McClurg, and we're walking down the street.
Okay.
Or I don't know, wherever the Dunkin' Donuts is, I can't remember, but it's right down there. And we're walking toward where the Dunkin' is. I don't know why we were heading that direction. I have no idea. And then about a block away, I see Les, and he's walking down the street toward us. Yeah, by himself. And so I have this moment where I'm like, oh no. Go
another way.
Okay. I'm like,
abort mission.
No, I can't do that because I think he saw me. So
you were made. I'm made, honey. I've been made.
So, like, okay, we got to hit this head on. And so I'm giving her, like, a really brief, like, okay, he's going to talk about sports, and it's going to be a lot, and you won't understand it. So just, he's very, very nice, though, and I love the guy. And I'm trying to, like, prep her right as he walks up. And I don't know what he talked about. I don't know what we talked about. I just know that when it was over, which was probably 25 minutes later, because I think what he had done is go to the Dunkin' in between breaks in his show, to get some coffee or something, and then come back.
Right.
And so there was like 25 minutes later, and then he finally, he's like, well, I got to get back to the station. And then, we start walking away, and I remember her going, wow, okay.
Wow, okay is like in that intonation is like, that's it. That's
wow,
it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Wow. That was interesting.
Just like I know people in my life who Les was just and this isn't a bad thing. It's just there are some people that are so unique that all they can I know he knew a lot of things, and he knew a lot about a lot, but he was very sports centric.
Oh yeah.
And so I feel like every conversation was through the lens of something that he had seen before. And sometimes there was another guy that I'm not going to bring up his name, but it's a person you know. that he would walk up to you and there wouldn't really be small talk. Like the guy wouldn't say, "Hey, Chris, how's it going? What's going on with you? How's your mom and dad?" You know, like that kind of stuff. He'd walk right up and go, "Do you realize that so and so has the 3-point record for whatever?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah." And so Grobber was kind of like that. Like a conversation would start like that. It wasn't like, "Hey man, how you doing? Everything good? What have you been up to?" It was just it would go right into some sports topic, which was it was super unique, you know. And I feel, I don't know, like I know this kind of thing happens where people have regret about how they didn't engage as much as they wanted to. And there were times where I was working at night, and you know I'd get done at like 11, and I'd just be like, all right, I want to go home. Like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, Les wants to do crosstalk. And I'm like, oh, man, I really want to go. And there were times where I would do it, and then times like, I got to get out of here, you know. And like now I think, actually not just now, but in the last several years since I've not been doing that job, I've always regretted not just kind of hanging around more and taking advantage of having those conversations, which were always odd conversations, but it was charming. It was like a really, there was something very charming about Les, but not in a classic charming way. It was just like, this guy is you know what I mean? Like, this guy's a character, and he's the nicest of people.
Well, there's an innocence about him, you know, that charming, since he is genuine, and I said it earlier, like he still has or had the mentality of the 13 or 14-year-old sports fan, like which I believe is like the peak of any kid's or human being's sports, like where you're just a pure fan and you love your team and you hate everybody else's team. That is the way Les was. Now, I don't mean that as a demeaning thing. He kept that mentality, but then had the experience of a professional broadcaster to back that up, and it made for a wild combination.
But you know what? I know there are probably sports hosts around the country who are similar in that way, but I can't imagine that anybody, and obviously I haven't heard every single show in the country, but I just can't imagine that anybody else had that combination of recall and quirkiness and ability and experience and like all of those things. I mean, people talk about Steve Summers at WFAN in New York, who just retired, you know, a few months ago, and I know that was the guy that Jerry Seinfeld liked, like the only sports talk show host he liked, and I think his last show Seinfeld called in, you know, to be a guest. But I never heard his show. Like I don't really know much about him. I just heard people talk about him. And one person on Twitter today said that he was similar, and maybe that's true, but I can't believe that there would be anybody quite like Les. The whole overnight thing, the quirkiness and the weirdness of it is to be celebrated.
Yeah.
Like because it helped give the station. It was part of the station's soul.
Yeah.
And it should always be celebrated, and it can't be recreated ever. and I used to tell people, Mark, when I would call when I moved to St. Louis and I was doing the show down here, and you know, like if the Cubs and Cardinals were playing, or you know, Sox and Cardinals or whatever, people would have me on as a guest. You know, I think I've been on your shows and you know, middays and afternoons, whatever. Yeah. And you know, we get to talking about it, and a couple of times I vividly remember saying in the last few years, like, hey, I'm gonna tell you guys something about Les Grobstein. You need to celebrate that guy, because there ain't anybody like him. There's nobody like that dude. There's definitely nothing like that down here. Not even close to him down here. Somebody who was willing to do that show for as long as he did. He was almost 70, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to do 5 hours of overnight just every night because I love it that much. Like, you couldn't get most people in their 60s to agree to do that for less than $1 million. And that guy did it because he freaking loved it.
And I tell you what I wonder too It's like you're talking about like Les's ability to do that job and being the only one who could do that job. I often want, and you know what? I'll ask Mitch Rosen this question because guess what, Chris? Mitch Rosen and I are doing radio from 3 to 5 this morning on the Score. I will ask.
I'm sorry,
him,
what? The two of you together are hosting together?
We are hosting together. We are co-hosting from 3 to
God.
5. It's a newer type of show that we're gonna do a little bit later on, but. Was Score Overnights created? Was it a job opening or a job that was created because Les was available? Like there's no other character that could have been casted. So I don't know. I don't know what happens going forward because if the job was created for Grobber, there's nobody else that could perform the overnights the way Les did.
Well, if I remember right, there was a time overnight where he was not on. I think when I first started in the fall of 2002. And I don't think we had Les. I think he had been there for a long time, was not there, and I want to say he came back. Like Mitch brought him back, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, there's been other people who've done like Tommy Williams used to do.
He wasn't here when I got here.
Oh, okay, but he did some version of Overnight. I can't remember another guy that just a sweet man, Tommy Williams. Love Big Partner.
Big Partner. People, my friends used to love Big Partner. They used to tell me about him all the time, and I never heard of him. Well, I never heard him. I never heard him myself. That's what I should say.
I got you.
But like my buddies, coming out of college were like, "Oh man, Tommy, this guy's great."
That's hilarious, man. But yeah, so on Mitch's watch, I think it's always been Les on the. But maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong because
I feel like he brought him back. That's what I think happened, but I could be wrong.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll straighten all that out with Mitchy Poo between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock this morning. So.
I think Grote that he's I don't know if anybody else can do that. I mean, I said it earlier that I'm not sure he's replaceable. You can have a younger person do it and they might be really good. Somebody who's hungry and wants to work all night, or somebody who just likes being up all night.
Yeah.
It'll never be what that was, what his show was. And
amen.
We always got at my old show down in St. Louis. One of the co-hosts loved the Lee Elia rant, and I loved being able to tell him I know the only guy who had a microphone in the room that day.
And you can probably get him on the radio right now.
Yeah, I love. Can I tell you another really odd thing, and maybe you can clear this up for me? Because,
sure.
And this is the thing. I don't know what your show's been like for the first hour or so before I was on, but I'm assuming it's just we're talking about all the weird stuff Les did. And,
yes.
And you know what? That's okay. I think like most people in a situation like this, it probably wouldn't be like this. But with him, it's perfect in some way, if that makes sense. Like it's perfect that we're celebrating the oddity of that man because that was whatever. Anyway, can you clear this up for me? One time, I think it was one of the first few times I had worked at night when he was there. I was working and then he was coming in after. And he was microwaving something. I don't know what it was, but it was in the old NBC building. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And I walked by the little kitchen, like I was just passing by, I think, going to the bathroom, and he's at the microwave, and he's like leaning over as the microwave is on. It's cooking whatever's in there. And he's leaning over like maybe 3 inches from the door of the microwave staring into it.
Okay.
Like it's like he's a kid watching TV, and I'm like, I don't know if he does that all the time. Like, did you ever see him do that? Like, did he just watch food get microwaved like that?
Oh my God, he enjoys the show. See, this goes back to him being a 14-year-old. It's like, I love watching. I love it. I feel like that's such a great question, Chris, because I feel like we only, as long as Les has been around, and as you mentioned, almost 70 years old when we lost him, I feel like we're just starting to scratch the surface of what Les was really about and what the real quirks were. He's like his own planet, which Les would appreciate. Just starting to scratch the surface of what is in Planet Grobber.
And that's the thing, like all the people on the station, you pretty much know what they are, right? Like you know what everybody is. I really do feel like there was still a lot of mystery with him. Like as long as he had been around And as much as you had known him, there's a lot about that guy you just didn't know.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris, just like when Danny and I were doing the radiothon that Danny Parkins performed, and he told us about his love of bananas and a situation where he admitted to essentially being a sex addict. And we were like, hey.
Wait, come on. Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little more, it's convoluted how we got there, and we're going to play it at some point in time.
Wait a minute. So that's why I heard you, like, 20 minutes ago saying that we knew Les was a sex addict.
Yeah,
you were being serious.
Yeah, I wasn't kidding, man. Like, it happened, and he on live radio. Let's just put it this way: he never said those words, but we said them, and he never denied it. You know, use your imagination. You're probably right. It's kind of where we were with Les, and I promise, that's what happened. It was happened on live radio. We will bring it back to you. And by the way, Chris, I have gotten a text message from the man himself, Mitch Rosen. He is up, and when he got to the Score, Mitch Rosen, the overnight was syndicated programming. So when he says, when I came in, then I brought Les back. So
that's what I thought. Okay.
Okay. So so it was right now it's starting to come to me. Yeah. There was it was an overnight show that was syndicated. I don't remember who did the show or anything like that, but then Les came back and it made us whole is what it did, Chris.
Yeah, and it was perfect. You have to have, I think, and I know radio's different now, and a lot of places around the country just don't bother with it, but to have programming all day, like 24 hours a day, that's only local. You know, and there are some exceptions, of course. You've got some weekend stuff and games and whatnot, but you know, to have that is special, and then to have him doing it is even more special, and it's just it's unrecreatable. I don't know if that's a word or not, but I just made it up. You can't
we totally get it. Yep.
You can't really do that again.
Amen, brother. Ranji, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate you sharing some of your memories and thoughts and discoveries on the great Les Grobstein.
He is everybody keeps calling him a sports encyclopedia, but I feel like he's more of a sports Wikipedia, and because
that's good.
Because a Wikipedia has everything, and maybe some details are not quite right, but for the most part, like 95% of it is spot on. You know what I mean? And it's instant.
Yes.
You don't have to go look for it. You can. It's just he's got it or had it, and we're talking about him in past tense. All right.
I know. Thanks, Chris.
See you, buddy. Love you.
Yeah, love you too, man. Yeah. Oh, that's so good, though. Yes, Les is more Wikipedia because he's all over the place. He goes into details. Sometimes you get lost. Sometimes it gets too long. Sometimes it's too much information on Wikipedia, and you're like, no, I really just wanted the thumbnail. I just wanted this or that. But Les gives it all to, and you're right. Like, he's not a dictionary or encyclopedia because he'll get some things wrong. Les, through the years that started to get a little older, he'd miss some things, and the internet comes along, and Les can be fact checked. So he didn't always get it right, but guess what? He got it right more than any of us in terms of recalling, the mundane, as I say. 312-644-6767. I promise we are going to get right back to your phone calls. We shall take a break, and then we will continue to celebrate Les Grobstein. I'm Mark Grote. This is Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score.
He was on a team that without that offense,
come on, Les, come on.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny farm.
You earned that one, Jack.
He did
Sorry.
not. He didn't earn that. No, he didn't. Cutler's better.
Actually, I did.
Adam, how old were you in 1985?
Stop. It doesn't
Adam,
matter.
How old were you in 1985?
It doesn't matter, Les.
It does matter.
No, it doesn't.
I was at every single game.
Jay Cutler's better.
I've been at every game Cutler has played as a Bear, and I was at every game in 85. You weren't.
Oh, well, actually,
I don't care.
I wasn't. Are you talking to me or Adam now?
Both of you.
Okay. Well, I don't know who Adam is, but Adam, you're exactly right. There's no question.
You're both crazy. You're both crazy.
How can you say that?
I just did. Watch
Cutler's
my lips.
better. Okay.
Oh my God! I don't know if I've ever heard that.
That's pretty good.
In that, oh my God, that is so good. Les arguing that Jim McMahon was better than Jay Cutler. That's not a crazy thing to throw up there for debate. But Jay Cutler, he does hold the records for the Bears. It's funny, while we're on that topic, everybody does the Bears haven't had a quarterback since Sid Luckman. And that's when you had a winning quarterback. The records, it's Jay Cutler is the guy they have to start using in that regard. Like when it's Thursday night football or Monday night football or Sunday night, whatever primetime game it is, and they do the Bears thing, and then they talk about they haven't had a quarterback since Sid Luck. No, it's Jay Cutler. But I love Jim McMahon too. He might have been a better quarterback than Jay Cutler because he won. Anyway, I'm Mark Grote. This is Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. We are mourning the loss of one of Chicago's greatest ever in sports radio. Les Grobstein lost him on Sunday afternoon at the age of 69. And I am thrilled right now. I've learned that on the phone with us right now is Scott Grobstein. And Scott Grobstein is the son of Les Grobstein. Scott, man, I am so pleased that you have called in. How are you, man?
First of all, I was going to say, I wonder how he would have reacted if he knows that my son has a Jay Cutler jersey hanging up in his closet right now. Ooh, just saying. And I remember hearing that show live, and I'm driving, and I'm like, there's so many cringeworthy moments, but I'm driving, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's getting so many, he's roasting this guy. Let it go. But yeah, I'm hanging in there, man. How you doing?
I am doing well. It's this has been radio therapy for me all day, so I'm kind of going on my fourth and fifth hours of trying to talk through all of this and try to make sense of it. I don't know. Have you been able to make sense of it? That's a weird thing to ask about somebody dying.
No, you know what? You're right. And I know you and I have talked, quite a bit in the past week, just with the stuff going on and not exactly fully knowing, this situation. And I haven't fully made sense of it yet. I'm still trying to process. I knew some stuff was going down, but obviously didn't know it was going to result in the way it did yesterday. But it's funny because I'll tell you what, man, and a lot of it's to you, and we've talked. I've been laughing a whole lot more than feeling sad today, just because of everything going on in the Score, and just literally laughing out loud to the point where my kids are like, "Really again?" I'm like, I need this. And then, of course, when they played like the melodramatic, the School remembers, and I'm like, oh man. So,
oh yeah, right. The Masters music in the background. Yeah.
Even my wife's like, they're playing that again. I'm gonna start crying, and I'm like, I know, it's what they do. So yeah, it's a whirlwind, man. Of course, that's the word I use. It's a whirlwind.
It is totally a whirlwind, and I gotta be honest with you, Scott. It's I'm glad that you guys are enjoying what we are doing, because it is really important to me to preside over this correctly.
You have no idea what it has done, and you said it, man. It's therapy. I mean, we obviously are out and about doing a lot of running around, logistics, things like that, and I have pretty much all demanded that 670 stays on pretty much from 6 a.m. this morning because I went out with David. And I've needed to hear it all day long, and it's not because, hey, I want the brag sheet, I want the pride. It's the therapy. It's just there's so many stories, and they're all hilarious. They're all weird. They're all awkward, and they're all true. Whether he's the same guy, was the same guy on the air that he was off the air. Real funny, quick story. Shocker.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to say a funny, quick story. All right, so he and our relationship has pretty much been for a while. You know, we meet up once a month for lunch and we talk about whatever he wants to talk about with sports, right? So we're at. I let him lead. I let him lead the convo, and
Good,
that's fine. If I need to know about Northwestern in 1982, he's got me. So I think we're at Firehouse or something. I don't know, wherever we were. He's ordering his food. Both he and I hate condiments on our food. It's one of the quirks I got from him. No ketchup, no mustard, no dressing. Okay? He's at the counter. He's ordering his food, and he emphasizes no mayo on his sandwich. And normally I'm thinking how I would order, hey, please, no mayo, plain, please. He would say, you would do it better, but no mayo. If it's on there, I get sick to my stomach. I'll return it. I'm not eating it. And he's louder each sentence. And this is where I'm a teacher, as you know, and this is right around where I teach. And I have former students in there working, and I'm falling backwards. I'm like, I'm going to go get us a table far away from whatever you're doing right now. So a buddy and I who works with me, that's been the saying now, no mayo. He'll walk by my room in the middle of teaching and be like, no mayo. So you're welcome.
Oh, that's incredible, man. Did you ever get to the bottom of why he was so adamant? And like, had they told him they might put the mayo on, and then he exploded? What happened?
No, they were like, okay, no problem. He's like, no, I'm serious. It'll get me sick to my stomach, and I won't. I mean, why are you threatening this guy? He's not going to put mayo on. And of course, I kind of shoot the whole "I'm so sorry" look. I promise we're not both like that. And it was, was it a trip? I mean, he was. You might as well brought up Cutler. He was steaming. Yeah, it was.
Oh my God! So
it's not like he put mayo last time. He just never did. So I don't know.
So you had to have that parachute a lot, didn't you? Like you probably
100%.
knew that. Like you're always there's always a potential situation if it's you and Les and customer service or just other people, right? So you're always ready.
100%. Oh yeah, and my boys were ready for it too. I mean, I have a 9-year-old and a 15-year-old, and they knew, be ready for whatever when we go anywhere. And I mean, we went to there was some time where he had Hawks tickets for us, and I guess his friend had them for us, and I guess they were for the wrong night, and all what broke loose, and he's going nuts to the Hawks. It was more funny, but it was cringeworthy. So I mean, that was his passion,
Yeah.
Everything that he did on the air, like I said, it was real. So it just went with it.
Yeah, and that's
what
the way
we
are
do?
too. Well, that's sort of we are, and sometimes we poke the bear a little bit too much, but I don't think he's ever truly been offended by anything.
No, not at all. When you did the Super Bowl thing and he got, totally out of his mind with that, I actually called him right after. I'm like, dude, why are you so mad at Grote? Is this a bit? Or are you like, what's your deal? That usually was my question. Like, what the hell? What's with the coffee maker? Like, what are you doing? And it's like, no, we're fine. Like, man. So,
that's what he said. That's what he said to me too. When I that was the only time I think of all of our conversations. I think it's the only time where I was like, God, I hope he's not pissed, because I was pushed it maybe one too far. But yeah, it was always all good, and he washed that away, and it was like he just knew it was part of what he did, and it came in a very genuine, innocent way, didn't it?
Yeah, I didn't know it was so secretive about that Super Bowl thing either. I'm not sure why it was why he kind of guarded with it, but must have been a special Super Bowl. So
you're hilarious.
Whatever.
So you have to you sort of have this, like, if people, now that you're probably going to meet a lot of people that you don't know but maybe you know of, and you're going to have this aw shucks, hey, I'm sorry about this, and I know Les is a little bit like you explaining Grobber and rationalizing and being the quote unquote normal Grobber or Grobstein in the house.
Yeah, well, I've kind of become Grobber to among my friends, but I'm the younger one, I guess. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it's people know what they're, and of course my close friends are just, and everyone. I just want to say that too, real quick. I mean, without saying the listeners, the Mitch, you, Bruce, David, everyone I've spoken to, is just unbelievable, just absolutely incredible, and I've laughed a lot today, but I've definitely felt reassured that you guys took care of them and cared about them, and the whole world seemed to, which was awesome. Not to bring it all somber there for a second, but I needed to say that. Yeah, that's where the emotions are, right? They're all over. But yeah, everyone kind of knows in my circle what you expect with him, and I I had to prep my wife, who I've obviously been married to for a while now, but when she first met him, and any of my other friends, I'm like, yeah, he's the sports guy. Don't tell him you like the Packers, though. Do me a favor, avoid that.
Yeah, just avoid. That's the only thing. If you can avoid it, that would
Don't
probably
bring up politics. That's a no.
Yeah, don't get going on the politics. Do not.
Yeah.
If there's any Lakers fans that happen to be
No.
here, probably it'd be a good idea to sit this one out, maybe.
Yeah, there's some no-nos there. You will be dumped. It'll be the 7-second you're dumped.
That's hilarious. I never thought of Les as being a person who comes with a disclaimer, because he's harmless. He's harmless, but it could come off the wrong way if you don't explain him ahead of time.
Dump him.
Like I said, there it is. I'm like, why though? Why are you? And I'm like cringing. I'm like, are you? Can you imagine all the producers? Like, what are they thinking? I mean, I know exactly what they're thinking because I'm thinking it too. But yeah, it's it's just how it was, man. But it's grinding through it. It's obviously not fully surreal. It's just I do this. I do the humor thing. That's my coping mechanism with anything that's not fun to deal with. So this has been the perfect day for that,
Yeah, what I do have to ask you, beyond the grobberness. Well, this is still part of his grobberness. Why does he his sports love? Have you figured it out?
I haven't. I know, and this is where it gets kind of complicated. I didn't live with him most of my life. Even parents got divorced when I was 2. That was my mom's the first wife. There were a couple more, and so
yep.
so I was the first one. So yeah, I think his passion he just got and became in love with the career and everything sports, and obviously there were sacrifices that came along with that, but he was dedicated to it with unlike anyone I've ever seen or heard. I thought I was in sports. Nope.
Yeah, I mean, no. I mean, we all are. Obviously, we all are. Right. And I wouldn't work at a sports radio station if I didn't, at my base, have a whole hell of a lot of passion. But we all know Les takes it to another level, and his desire, his want, his need to be at every game and then get back to his microphone and then cover all the Bears games and all the Super Bowls. That's the part that I have never really gotten to the bottom of, but basically you're telling me you're giving me some good intel, because you're telling me that there wasn't really any, he was just a big sports fan, and maybe it's not that complicated.
No, it's not. It's not a complicated thing at all. I mean, he and I went on a trip my sophomore year in high school, and this was kind of the fun, growing up. Oh, your dad's a sportscaster. You get to go on these trips and go to these games, and that part was, it's kind of fun getting to do that stuff, but. I went with him when he was working UIC hockey. I went with him up to Alaska for the college hockey tournament up there. So we spent a couple nights up there, and on the way back, we took a detour through Phoenix over the weekend, went to the Bears-Cardinals game, and then that night hit up a Suns game, and then the night took a red-eye back home. And this was in the span of about 72 hours. So, and he continued to remind me that was an 80-degree difference. And I'm like, yes, we've had that talk many times. So.
Oh, yeah. He always had prepared material, like something like that, like like having that number. He always had something for you that was going to be scripted, or that would be the theme of the day.
Right, and clearly was stale, but he, just kept it fresh, I guess. I mean, we were at a Bulls game. It was Hawaii. See, now I sound like him. We were at a Bulls game, and, it was Hawaiian night, and he wanted to be original and go up to random people and go, mahalo, and just random people, mahalo. Like, you kidding me? Like, and it would be a pause, like he was building towards something dramatic, and he would just say mahalo. I'm like, I've heard of that word before. Okay, I got it. And it's just, this is what it was.
That's incredible. And
Yeah.
is it true that you are the natural successor to Score Overnight? That it has to be a Grobstein, so you'll be filling in soon and doing overnight just like Dad?
I mean, considering I'm on carpool duty in about 4 hours, what could go wrong with that? So, yeah, I wanted to do this for a career. Because of him, I wanted to go into sportscasting. And, obviously, Chris was telling you we knew each other a little bit from ISU. And I don't know if you knew this, Mark, but I was actually a sales intern at the Score back in
I had no idea.
01. Yeah, Lawrence
Really?
Holmes took me on my first sales call. Yep.
I had no idea.
I know. I wanted to go there, and then I ended up working sales at 104.3 with Beyondy, and that was, I wanted to somehow stay in Chicago and do radio, and I didn't know where I was going to go with it. I saw the lifestyle he lived, and, you take the good with the bad, and then I kind of did a 180, and obviously a teacher, so I got some time in that. I can do it. Why not? I'll talk to Mitch.
Yeah, that's hilarious, man. So when you went to ISU, were you abroad? Were you in the mass communications program at Illinois State?
Yeah, so I was actually a music major. So unlike him, when he tried, the bear down thing, I was a voice guy. So I was the choir, glee nerdy guy in high school. So that's what I did in college, and then I was a minor in communications. So I spent half my time in the music building and half my time over at, the radio station doing stuff there. So it's, and then, it was fun. I miss those days, of course.
Of course. And then Les used to always talk, because now that, you just stimulated the thought process on you singing. Where did you sing the national anthem? Because Les always tells this story.
That would be 1060 West Addison. That would be at Wrigley Field. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So, and I always feel like weird saying that, like always, it's never about the whatever, the fame or recognition, but it was a nice way to, I was able to do it. I think I did it 4 times in the early 2000s, and it was a lot of fun. It was the first time I knew it was going to be on TV. I had 5 cameras in my face, and my buddy who was a vendor that day made sure he was in my peripheral to try to mess me up, and it didn't work. I did okay. Oh yeah, he was trying to give me the grinning. He was a Sox fan, so go figure.
Oh my God, that's horrible. That's horrible. That's a big moment, singing the national anthem. You can't have somebody playing Jackass over there.
No.
Come on.
No, I let him know. No, it was great. That is definitely was a really neat experience to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, Les always liked to talk about that, and always Les. The beautiful thing about Les is he would tell the same stories over and over and over. And to him, though, it definitely was presented like he was telling it the first time, and he would always say, he would always tell him, yes, my son Scott went to Illinois, went to ISU just like you did. And yes, he did. I've always felt like I've known you, even though I don't really know you. So
I know. And he would make sure to show me his picture with Bill Murray and Michael Jordan just to make sure, you know who this guy is. I'm like, yes, that's Harold Ramis. We've established that as well. So he obviously, and that would be at our lunch outings as well. That would be what half of the lunch outing would be, is him showing me the Olympics.
Oh man, Scott, this has been phenomenal. It's funny because you and I were chatting via text earlier, and I was just checking on you, and you were saying, hey, whatever you need. And what I wanted to ask you was, would you come on the overnight show? But I was like, I'm not going to do that to you because you had to be wiped. So the fact that you picked up the phone unprompted means a lot to me. Thank you, Scott.
Oh, Man, right back at you. And I think I'm running on fumes. I am a night owl, but I probably should, normally would be sleeping now. But for a lot of reasons, I was up, and obviously I wanted to, check in with with what you're doing tonight. And thank you so much for doing this. And yeah, I figure I'm up. I got some energy right now to burn, so let's give a phone call.
Yeah, well, thank you, and my
Absolutely.
sincere condolences to you
Thank
to your family and to all of your relatives and your close friends that you guys will privately mourn with.
Yep.
And I look forward to hopefully seeing you in honor of Les at some point in time soon, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chicago. Thank you to your fans, and thank you, Mark. I'm speechless because now, it's just been awesome.
Thank you, Scott. Have a good night. That is Scott Grobstein, Les Grobstein's son, Scott, and that was great. And I really, he's so normal. That's what you're all thinking, right? He's really got his head screwed on the right way. He doesn't seem like Les at all. Like, it's just beautiful. Like, Les is that guy around everybody. He is the same dude, so we can all compare notes. Like, some of us would get, oh yeah, Mark, yeah, he's kind of solitary. Mark, he's very social. Mark, he's a little bit withdrawn. Mark's very, like, we're all like many different people. We've just learned from that conversation with his son. He's just the Les that you hear on the radio, that's the way he is. And I know we always say that, and it sounds cliche and trite and all of that, and like you could just interchange that and use that with anybody. But Les really, he's pretty damn close to what you hear on the air. That's his everyday in your path with a few words that he probably can't use on the radio, so maybe the language is slightly different, but that's pretty much him. And I cannot say the same of anybody at the Score, and that includes me. So that is just it. That is his talent, his gift, his everything is his grobberness, that everybody sees, and there are no. I learn new things. Like I said, I learn about Grobber. I learned about Grobber just now. We learned earlier about Grobber in being into charitable organizations and events earlier, so we could still learn about him. But the essence of him is there for everybody to see. He is always the same person, and there's not a lot of people like that where you can absolutely 100% depend on somebody to be as they are always, and none of us really likes change. So Grobber represented that for all of us. He represented something static that was just right there for you, and you could partake in it, you could interact with it, you could have fun with it. It was Les Grobstein for all of us. So yeah, that was great talking to Scott Grobstein. I'm Mark Grote. We are mourning the loss of our friend and our colleague Les Grobstein, and would love to hear from you guys, the loyal Grobber listeners. 312-644-6767. Who knows who we might hear from along the way as well. And I can tell you one person that will join me at 3 o'clock this morning, and that is the man that hired Les Grobstein. That is our boss, Mitch Rosen. He hired Les Grobstein, and not just that, but he's known Les Grobstein just as long as anybody in this town. Mitch can connect Grobber dots probably better than most when it comes to the industry and personal. So Mitch will provide a wide breadth of Grobberness as we continue here on The Score. I'm Mark Grote. This is Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score.